Hello, and happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to our talk. Today, normally we do First Fridays, but First Friday didn't work out for us. So we're doing Fourth Fridays because we can do what we want to do. And so we're coming to you to talk about a topic that is near and dear to both of us. And so I am Dr. LaRyan Douglas, and we have Christina. Christina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello. Thank you, Dr. Lavanya. I am Chris Negron Olivieri. I am a second year doctoral student over at William James studying leadership psychology and about 20 years in healthcare. So I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Nice. And so uh Chris is doing her practicum. It's practicum, right? Not internship.
Yep.
Mhm. Practicum with unregulated leadership this semester. And so we're having lots of great conversations with lots of great people, talking about just different things. We talked about like knowing your gifts and like operating in your strengths and like the people that are around you and like not being in places where you're not appreciated. And so through that conversation, we stumbled across the thought of the phenomenon of pet to threat. And so then we just started talking about it. We was like, ooh, we should talk to the people about it. This is a thing that is happening. We both experienced it in our own different ways. And so, but we clearly we're here. And so we have thrived through that situation and but it's there, right? And so one of the things that we do with unregulated leadership is we like to give practical ways that either the leaders can interact or deal with um, their people, the people that they're leading, or the line staff, how to deal with the leadership. If because we can't control nobody but who ourselves. And so we want to help y'all. We want to help y'all. So we are here. So Chris, can you tell us a little bit about, because we only got 30 minutes, so we want to make sure that we get some good stuff in. Tell us about your situation and how this, when we talked about pet to threat, how that resonated with you.
Sure. So this was just like a historical experience that I had. And didn't really know how to coin it until we started having the conversation. And then, like the more I started going through program, the more I started to read up on it. It's like, wow, now it's really starting to hit home. My experience really was just stepping into a leadership role. And it was a completely new environment for me. And, just really the relationship. Like at first stepping into the role, you start to realize that, after the fact, what I thought was very genuine. When I come in, I'm just somebody that what you see is what you get. I'm very authentic in my presence, what I bring forward. And with that, the leader that I was working with, very welcoming, very, like I was very drawn to this leader because of the innovative thought and potential of what this role, could really, really do and where we could really see this. So I was vested in it. I was really excited. And at first it was just a very amicable relationship, right? Like you're starting to be that person that's getting thrust into the spotlight. Right. Like, Chris is going to be doing this, like Chris is doing this. It's a little bit uncomfortable for me because I don't like being in the spotlight, but, just starting to notice that behavior and, then really kind of like immediately trying to entrench themselves into the personal, which was a little off-putting for me because I'm just used to, yeah, you have relationships like with colleagues, but it just felt like it was a little too quick, too soon. But, maybe it was just my wall was up. I don't know. But what slowly started to happen was I thought I was like, am I seeing this incorrectly? Was I was struggling with a dynamic with team members. Like, it was like one team member specifically. And, started realizing that there was, what I was having this communication I was having with this team member, this person was going to them and really starting to really try to like stir the pot. Right. Because, this was a person that, had a history of making it difficult for those that they reported to. So I think, the leader there just kind of like enjoyed seeing the fireworks happen. But I was very calm and collected, and I didn't allow it to get to me. Like I would have the conversations. Like I was not afraid to confront it. And when I really started to see the light, like was one conversation that we had, that leader and I, um, where I essentially kind of flipped the script a little bit, where I started to notice some behaviors that were inappropriate. And I said to them, like, how they wanted to handle the situation with this other team member was just not appropriate. It went against policy. It was just literally like a gotcha. And I called them out on it. And was like, absolutely not. Like, I've had your back up until this point. I've been working with you, but this was just like, it completely took me by left, like, just by left field. And it was one of those moments where I had to literally walk away from like the day where I had to completely shut down. And I felt so like it really took the wind out of me. And I really started to process it. And, then it kind of flipped. I wasn't that go-to person. Starting to see, all right, this person is taking your ideas. They're telling you, oh, no, it's not going to work, not going to work. But then next thing you know, the idea is going. They're starting to, like, in front of your team members, undercut you. I started to notice that, and slowly it made me start to wonder. It started to make me question, like, am I capable? What did I do? Like, it started to make, like, there was a manipulation that was very subtle. I started to realize the fact, where literally, like, it made me, I don't want to say it made me question my existence, but it was like really making me question, like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing? Like, am I even worthy of being at this table? Right? Like, am I even worthy of this role? Am I capable of this role? I mean, it really took its toll on me mentally and emotionally, where to a point, like, there was only so much you could do, where I had to, it was hard, but I had to put myself in that uncomfortable position of stepping out without really having a true safety net. But that was where the learning, that was when the healing journey, that was when the learning journey really came into play, because I had that ability to, once I separated myself from it, really started to see the situation at face value and realized, no, it wasn't me. It was this person's insecurity. Like, you truly weren't valued. You were used. And that was a tough pill. Like, it was a really tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, do we know the same people? The same? And of course, the situations are completely different, right? But it is the behavior is the same. And the experience of the feeling of, is something wrong with me? What did I do? What happened? Like, I was just standing up for the people, which is what they teach us to do in leadership, and do what's right, not just what's accepted, right? And so when we started to look at this was, I believe her name is Dr. Keisha Thomas, and she was one of the people that kind of coined this phrase of pet to threat. And so as I'm listening to you, it's like, I'm almost having like I'm like, oh, right? Like, but it's happening so many places. And it's like, a lot of times people want to be seen as the person that's molding you, the person that is giving you the opportunities. But then when you start to find your own opportunities, then it becomes no. And then, like you just said, like you mentioned, or if you hold them accountable, right? A lot of leaders don't like to be held accountable to the decisions that they make. And it may not be the best decision. None of us are perfect, right? And so if we're not perfect, like, we're not always going to show up and make the right decision. But just be like, you know what, that wasn't the best decision. Oh, I said something that I really can't do. And so then you're transparent. You hold yourself accountable to the things that come out your mouth. And when you are interacting in a way that's unacceptable, as you kind of described, it might be uncomfortable, but you take it because that's what you do as a leader. And so I won't go too deep into my story because it almost sounds exactly like yours, but I want to sit with that mental health piece, right? Because when you say it started to affect you, your mental health, it also affected mine to the point that I had to take some time off of work because, like, I was not showing up as my best self. I actually created a whole t-shirt. Joe Clark? You know Joe Clark from Lean On Me? So I created a whole t-shirt that said Joe Clark Energy, and I had created a whole noun. And I told my supervisor at the time, I said, this is going to be my new uniform because things are going left and people are not being treated. Like, it was just so much happening. And I was like, you know, we have to stand up for what's right. We can't just do what the status quo is. We have to do the right thing. Like, we get into jobs because we care about what we're doing. You said you were in healthcare. Like, that is huge, right? The people that we're serving are people that need our help. And so when you're in the service field, like, it can't be, this is not a selfish thing. And so for me, I felt like I was changing. Like, I was changing. My emotions were like, I was having emotions that I normally didn't have, like feelings of, you know, like not enough. And then anger, and then like just randomly crying, you know what I'm saying? So when you think about the emotions that you had when you were speaking about mental health, what did you feel? What were the things that you were feeling at that time?
Very similar, but what's odd is I started to retreat. Like, my normal bubbly self started to kind of come back. And I realized it, and I said it to some of my team members. It's like, listen, I am so sorry if I am not showing up. It's like, and that was what I said, as crazy as it was in my, like, you know, when I was leaving, I was just like, I am not an effective leader. It's like, I am right now struggling. So how am I going to lead a team when I can't even lead myself just to get out of bed in the morning?
Yeah.
And like with that retreating, like the normal, like, you know, it was really odd because I was holding on to it for a very long time. And it starts to impact relationships. And it was a friend of mine who called it out when we were talking one time, where he was just kind of like, dude, like, are you okay? Are you all right? He's like, because it's just your tone is changing when you're talking about this. And I opened up, and he was like, you know, does anyone else know about it? I'm like, no. And I was like, I honestly don't know what to do. He's like, whoa. He's like, what you need to do is find yourself a healthier space, because like, you know, he's like, this isn't it. It's not working. And like, the biggest thing I remembered was just know, he was like, just know in the end, Chris, he's like, at the end of the day, you're a business decision, right? He's like, you're going to be a business decision. So he's like, treat this like you got to make a business decision for you. He's like, because you're working hard, but you know, he's like, what good are you going to be, you know, if you're going to allow yourself to sit in this sort of situation? Like, and it really struck, because it made me realize, like, man, it kind of stinks when you're studying a subject matter and it's just aligning with everything that you're doing. And I'm like, well, I guess I got to kind of jump without, like, you know, the parachute, nothing, just got to jump and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the hard part, the leaving and jumping and doing it, right? Because like, legit, I don't think we've gone into much detail about this, but I did the same thing. I was in a manager's meeting, and I was sitting in the back, and normally, like, I'm bubbly, we talking, hey, everybody. I was late to the meeting. I was in the back of the room, like, I was scrunched up in the corner. Somebody's like, do you want to come to the front? I was like, no, I'm fine right here. It was like, so then one of my coworkers, he sent me a text message. He was like, your attitude sucks. Like, like, you're sitting over there in the corner, like, what is wrong with you? Like, fix your face. And I was like, okay.
Sure.
I don't want to fix my face because I don't want to be here. Like, I don't feel appreciated. Like, I was having all these things, right? But like you said, someone else calls it out, which is why it's so important to have people around you that see you for you. And don't see you for what you can do for them. Because when you have people around you that truly care about your well-being and who you are, they're going to call you out because they care about you, not because they're looking for something in return. And so that's not the topic of today's conversation. But just a little, you know, plug. It's important who you have in your circle. Coworkers, friends, family. You have to manage your space so that you can keep people that will feed you, right? Because as leaders, we're giving out so much, but you have to keep people around you that are feed you, that are on the same track as you, and that can also check you when you know, something ain't right, so that you can come back or figure out what you need to do to come back. So you mentioned you left, because I left too. What was that like? What was that like for you?
Frightening, frightening, because at least I was fortunate to have like an opportunity that was going to like it was a complete opposite of what I was doing. Like it was kind of throwing me into a space that I wanted to eventually try, like, education, you know, just kind of teaching, workforce well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working with people that were in the healthcare field that were struggling. So it was almost like I was able to present the subject matter
Mm-hmm.
from an authentic space. And when you were hearing like these stories, when people were sharing, I had that ability to connect with them. So at least that was an opportunity that I had. But honestly, I left not wanting to go back into healthcare. I was like, I am absolutely done. I don't know what I want to do with myself. And like I say this, but it was like the biggest thing. I struggled with that decision to leave. And I had this dream that I had a dream. I was driving, like I had a dream that there is like an area here, like I'm in Maine, that there is like a bluff that overlooks. It's stunning, and it's always something that I would gravitate towards, like on my drive. So I had this dream that I was literally just kind of overlooking the bluff, but kind of just like, do I jump? Do I not jump? One of those things. And I just feel this presence. I'm like, I turn around, it's my dad. Like, and he pushed me off. And I was like, well,
Wow.
I guess that is his way of just being like, jump. And like my girlfriend told me, she's like, you'll find your wings on the way down. I'm like, it kind of sucks because I'm hitting everything as I'm going. But it's like I've said it before a lot of times, but I was like, when you look through it, like there's just in that struggle, in that challenge, like there's always something. There's always, like, sounds so cheesy, but there is always like some weird silver lining within it. And like I am certain for yourself, or maybe it wasn't the case, but it's like you start to realize what your true strengths are. Like it flips it. Like you're able to kind of see clearly and realize like, okay, maybe I was wrong here. These are some things that I need to kind of put in check for myself when you're doing that self-reflection, but also realizing like, damn, like I'm a lot stronger. Like I have a lot more to bring to the table than I initially thought I had. So as bad as that experience was, or as bad as someone's experience can be, and again, it's like this was mine personally, and everyone has their own experiences that vary.
Yeah.
For me, it was a blessing.
Yeah. I love it. I laugh as well. I think the people, my friends, my coworkers, Matt, he's here. He was one of the people that I think they were more scared than I was. And I was like, I'm out of here. It was like, but wait, right? Because like, it was like a job that's like a career job. Like you don't just up and leave. And I was like, I'm out of here. Like this is not going down. I need to be myself. Like, and the thing about it is when you know yourself really well and you feel yourself not being yourself, it's like, okay, something has to shift, something has to change. And I think I stayed a year longer than I should have. Just trying to like, because I was about the people, I cared about the people I was working with, and I was like, I want to be the change. They tell you all that great stuff. Be the change that you want to see. Like, be the example, be the model. So I'm like, I'm gonna be all these things. I'm gonna read all these books. I'm gonna take all these courses. I'm gonna learn how to lead, teach others how to lead, create courses to teach others how to lead. Like, I was like, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna change the world, starting with the people that I have influence over. And it was like, sometimes that's not it. That's not it. And so I left. I was a little nervous myself. But Wonder Woman, me and Wonder Woman, I say I'm Wonder Woman, because no one has ever seen me and Wonder Woman in the same place. I even have it's me and Wonder Woman. But like the story is like she found her superpower when she left home. right? She found out how strong she was when she left under the comfort of like people one either telling her what she could or could not do. When she left is when she like spread her wings. And I feel like that is in the space that we are both in right now, right? Like we can't really fly, right? Because I don't think that's the thing unless we have,
I can.
Tell me about it. You can fly?
Okay.
Like in the sky?
I'll show you.
Yes, but it's like now it's just like I'm the ideas are like nonstop, and I'm like, okay, trying to tell myself how do I calm myself down so that I can sleep because I need to sleep. But it's like now it's like nonstop. It's game time. It's like I can do this and I can do this, and it's like people be like, how many hours a day you got in your day? I don't know, but I schedule every moment of my day because I have so much stuff that I want to do. But I also believe that we don't go through these things for ourselves, which is one of the reasons that we're kind of doing this live, because we want to share with people why we're in a space of like, and I also had a therapist at the time, right? Like sometimes the therapist can see the things that we can't see. And so sometimes we have to bring some other people in, professionals that will help us transition through those difficult times, right? Like, but let's talk about we got about, wow, that was fast. We got about 9 minutes left. So I want to talk about some practical things. If anyone finds themselves in this space where they feel like that might be me, I was a pet, now I feel like I'm a threat, or I don't feel like they're putting baby in a corner, right? Like they sit down and shut up, right? Like, and so if you feel like that, what are the things that you can do to find yourself again, to rejuvenate and all those things? Like, what are some of the practical things that we can do to help people come out of the space?
Like what I found helpful was not because I felt like, okay, the way to correct it was just to do more. Like just do more, just keep proving yourself. It's like I started to kind of separate it and take that time out for myself. Like whether that was like a run in the trails, whether it was just, taking a time out, like a connection, like a call with a friend, like just really identifying for me, identifying that safe space, that person to talk to, like, just to really, and sometimes it's that person who is real, who will call you out like on like, okay, this is your blind spot, man. Like, do you realize this is what you're doing? But also kind of being that support for you to be like, you know what can I do for you? And also it helped me, to your point, speaking to a therapist, and full well realizing I was truly fortunate to have that ability to kind of take the step out like I did, to have the therapist. Not everybody has that, but it's just, I feel the first thing is just understanding that it's not you. Most likely it's not you. It's the system. It's the person. It's not you.
Go ahead.
I was like, how about you? Like how did you feel?
So one of the biggest things that I did is I started to remove people out of my space. Because you talk about the system, and if the system's broke, it doesn't matter how much you do or how much you like are still giving. And right, if the system's broke and they're not trying to fix it, you're like pouring from an empty place because you just continue to give and you're not being poured back into unless you're kind of doing it on your own. And so I started to like look at my circle and see like who is pouring into me. Who am I consistently pouring into where the conversation is one-sided? And because I needed to then take care of myself. Not that like I still won't talk to the people, but in the space that I am right now, like it was almost like if someone says something crazy, you might not be safe, right? And where I had a filter before and I might be able to, give you feedback in a more, diplomatic way, I might be just real direct and I might hurt your feelings. So it was almost like I had to completely remove myself and start to like listen to like the people and what they were saying and how they were making me feel. Because the reality is sometimes it's like, we don't like to use like strong words, but it's like verbal abuse. It's like a domestic violence relationship at work, right? It's the same characteristics that the oppression, the manipulation, you mentioned at the very beginning, like you were being used. They were using you for what you can do for them. And so it's like, okay, I have to do that with everybody. Because if you're a giver, it don't matter. You're not looking for anything in return. You just want to give. You just want to be helpful. You just want to, right? But some people will take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like recognizing, do they want me as a person or do they want what I can offer? And so I made a decision that I only want to be around people that in this moment in my life might not be forever, but that just want Lavanya, right? They don't want what Lavanya can give them. They just enjoy my presence. They just want me to be around. And that fuels me. Like, being around my mom and my dad and oh, when you coming back, or when you like, just the excitement that I'm coming around, it's just like, oh, this is good, right? And so like for me, it was finding people that wanted nothing from me but me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has been a turning point for me in how I interact with people, who I work with, even in business. And it just, because when you're a giver, sometimes you're blindsided by some of that stuff, right? Because you just want to help. You just want to help. And so definitely the relationship building for me, and therapy. Like I had a therapist. Like I woke up one day and I felt like God was telling me to get a therapist. I don't know why. I didn't know my life was about to go spiraling in a couple months. Right? I had no clue. Because even when I got her, she was like, so why are we here? I said, I don't know. I just felt like I just woke up and I said, I think I need a therapist. And, but she was there through the entire transition. And even through the transition, I wrote a book about it because I was transitioning through that time. And I was journaling, I was reading, like I was feeding myself, like every waking moment. I was like, listening to audibles. It was like I was just had to replenish myself because I was living in like a horrible space, but I was like, I can't like give up, right? And so I just was listening to things. I was reading books, I was writing. And so I put all the things that I was doing during that time into a book to kind of help other people transition when they're transitioning too. So yeah, it was a time.
That for sure. But here we are.
Listen, we have survived. We have survived. We've thrived. We're just out here doing things. We talking to the people on the interweb, okay? And so it didn't break us. It made us stronger.
Mm-hmm.
People that are going through the same situation, and yeah, like people can make it. You can make it if you're going through it. It is a thing that you can come through. But the relationships and finding your peace, I think, are things that we don't do enough. It's like, and sometimes when you work with people, you're like, I have to be around these people. Your family, I have to be around these people, but you don't.
No. And it's, it's to that point. It's like, finding those moments of peace. It's like for me, it was just walking my dog. And it was just like I had that ability for like 9 months when I was working from home, like doing a part-time thing and then doing consulting, doing all of this. Like it seemed like madness, but I was like, man, I could just take her out. And it was like, it didn't care. Like it didn't matter if it was snowing, raining, what, but she let it. And I just allowed it to just be. So I just sat in that silence. It didn't care how long it took, but I was noticing those flowers. I was noticing the trees, the things that just were before. So it helped me slow down.
I think there's so many things that with this phenomena that you can do to manage that space, because everybody can't just up and leave. But I think the one thing that we focused on that we always say is like, you can't control anybody but yourself. You can learn skills to be able to manage that space that you're in. But the most important thing is taking care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So it doesn't matter what program you put together. It doesn't matter how early you come to work or late you stay to prove that you're a good person or a good employee. None of that matters if you are not taking care of yourself, because you'll be sick. You won't be your authentic self, as we talk about. And so there's so much that we could talk about this. But But this was just like a little drop in the bucket to like bring awareness to this thing that I didn't even know was a thing until we like started researching it and looking it up. And so yeah. So any final thoughts to share with the people, Chris?
I think it's just the most important thing is just, and I've said it so many times, is, just protect your heart, protect this. Like it's just, there's so much that goes on. Like, it's so sneaky. I feel like this sort of behavior, this phenomenon, it really is sneaky, and the damage that it could do to you, it could be something serious, and we've seen it. Like, it's been in the news, right? Like, you've seen this, like where like how it escalates eventually into bullying and all these issues, and then what was it? Was it Lincoln? It was Veronica Candia, that professor, the assistant professor with like back in January, that died by suicide because of so it was escalated, but apparently that president from that school has been reinstated.
Wow.
And there was a history of abuse there, like bit by bit. So yeah, protect yourselves.
I love that. Yes, protect yourself, take care of yourself, do the things that make you feel good, be around people that make you feel good, get sleep, drink lots of water, and smile.
Even when Rome is burning.
Listen, it'll be fine.
I had no
be fine. Rome will stop burning. It'll be fine. Just smile. Just smile and be around other people that smile.
There we go.
So thank you all for joining us today on this here Friday. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. We'll be back with more topics and more little short lunchtime conversations for you to engage in with us. But thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you soon. Bye.